Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting of Tuesday, February 23rd, 2016. I would like to call this meeting to order. We will start with the reading of the mission statement. The mission of the Wakefield Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students to be lifelong learners who are meaningful contributors to society and meet their academic, social, civic, and physical potential. Next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. We have no items there. So Student Advisory Council.
Hi.
Hi.
The first thing I want to talk about is some event going on next Friday, which is March 4th, and it's offered just to the seniors, and it's about the alumni from Wakefield High School, and there's 7 alumni coming back, which will be inducted into the Alumni Hall of Fame at the school. They'll share their experiences from high school and their experiences that they had after high school and what got them inducted into the Hall of Fame. And while doing research for this event, they discovered that over 30 Wakefield High School alumni in the whole staff of about 110 have all gone to Wakefield High School and graduated from there, so that was kind of an interesting fact. And after the event, there'll be a reception following for the alumni that come back. Also, on Thursday, March 10th from 6 to 8 p.m., there'll be parent-teacher conferences.
And then the next thing we wanted to mention was that winter sports are closing down and spring sports are starting, but we have the boys and girls basketball teams which have qualified for the MIAA state tournament, which next week the games will be posted on the schedule. And then also we wanted to recognize Ty Beck. He was captain this year and a senior, and he was named MVP of the Middlesex League, so that's really big. The next thing we wanted to recognize the wrestling team, and they continue into their postseason as well. It's 10 wrestlers placed in the top 6 in the state, and 2 advance on to all states, and that's Evan Gorville, he's a senior, and then Jack Spicer. And then lastly, we wanted to just talk a little bit about the school resource officer, Jason Skillings. He's been really helpful, and he's been really just involved in the school overall and really friendly, always saying hi in the hallways. And he's, I think he's planning on giving info sessions about school safety and things like that coming up soon. So it's just really big.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Awesome, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is chairman's comments. I just wanted to bring to your attention that the public hearing next on the 8th will be at 7 p.m., not 7:30. I will remind you also by email, but that's all I have. And superintendent's remarks.
Okay, so first we have a field trip request from Wakefield Memorial High School. I'd like to ask 2 Spanish teachers to join us at the microphones.
Well, while I do that, you want me to read the motion? Okay, so
Yeah, sure.
move that the school committee approve a field trip for Wakefield Memorial High School students to visit Madrid, Spain, from Thursday, April 13 to Friday, April 21, 2017.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. And welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the school committee. Dr. Smith. Sarah and I are pleased to present to you this proposal for the next foreign language trip abroad. Members of the foreign language department have been leading successful trips to Europe for 10 years now, and we look forward to giving our children of Wakefield this life-changing opportunity again in 2017. This trip represents not only a reward for years of Spanish language study at the high school level, but also a springboard to a career with an international outlook. We also hope to inspire a desire to continue language learning and or travel that will continue for years to come. As shown in the proposal, this would be a 9-day tour, starting in Madrid and traveling to the south of Spain. We would travel to the cities of Sevilla, Granada, Malaga, Cordoba, and Nerja. We have some pictures here if you'd like to take a look. We'd be working with Promotor, a tour company with an excellent reputation, a comprehensive insurance plan, and a cadre of guides to accompany us on our journey. We are especially looking forward to the newest component of this tour, which would be the opportunity to visit a high school in Spain. There, our students would have the opportunity to speak with their Spanish peers and hopefully start a modern pen-pal relationship. We'd like to thank the school committee for their time and consideration in this matter, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
That sounds awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Great. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Voted unanimously. Thank you.
Thank
And
you
thank you for
very
getting
much.
the form to us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the FY17 recommended budget. Hopefully my voice will warm up a little bit. I've been coming down with a cold, so I think the more I talk, probably, I hope the better it will get. So in your packet, I've got the first piece is the presentation agenda. And you'll see that there are really 17 items overall. And then, of course, the mission statement that Ms. Morgan read to start our meeting, an important way to begin the budget process. And then the next really piece after a mission statement is what is the vision, what's the theory of action with which we begin to think about our instructional strategy. So our theory of action in the Wakefield Public Schools is if we provide students with a rich and challenging curriculum delivered with high-quality instructional practices and intentionally designed learning experiences to meet the needs of all students, we will have successfully prepared the children of Wakefield for college, career, and community upon graduation. So I think you can hear within that theory of action the three central objectives of our instructional strategy. As you know, the instructional strategy, the foundation is our robust early childhood education programming. We're in the second year of the Dual Early Childhood Center, which is just growing all the time. And of course, this year is our first day with full-day tuition-free kindergarten for all children in the Wakefield community. I think that early childhood education as a foundation for our instructional strategy is truly profound. And then the three objectives, this is really a review for the school committee, but perhaps our viewing audience, a quick review as well. So the first objective of our instructional strategy is quality teaching, and that's our investment in our educators. And our three initiatives within that objective are to provide quality, meaning feedback to all educators, to build a professional development program that's explicitly linked to the strategy and it is inclusive of rich job-embedded learning experiences. And then, of course, our focus this year on high-leverage instructional practices. The second objective of the instructional strategy is rigorous curriculum, and that is our investment in quality teaching tools. So our three initiatives this year will continue the implementation of grade-level common curricular experiences in English language arts and math. The second year of our 5-year cycle of the renewal and replacement of pre-K through 12 curriculum. And then, of course, the third initiative is the integration of 21st century technology tools to enrich and expand the student learning experience. And then the third objective of the instructional strategy is individualized student learning, and that's our investment in our students. So the three initiatives within that objective are to, one, provide strategies for educators to support the needs of a really diverse range of learners in their classrooms. Secondly, to use data effectively to really inform all classroom, school, and district decisions. And then finally, to provide access to innovative practices to really capitalize on and think about the unique abilities and interests of all of our students. So I think you're all familiar with the instructional strategy, and that truly drives the budget process. The next slide is a summary of the budget timeline, and I just want to highlight kind of today and the next couple of weeks. Tonight we're presenting the budget to the school committee. Next week I will provide a similar presentation to faculty and staff, provide opportunities for our professional educators to see the presentation and to provide me with some feedback. On March 8th, as Ms. Morgan mentioned, is a public budget hearing where community, parents, staff, students could weigh in on this recommended budget. And then finally on March 22nd will be the school committee vote. I'm proud to say I really feel like that we have met the goals that I set out to achieve in this budget recommendation. First, that it's truly driven by the instructional strategy. Secondly, I really seized the opportunity to repurpose resources and reallocate resources within the current budget to get where we needed to go. It is certainly inclusive of the voices of staff and parents and community. I believe strongly that it's reflective of what the Wakefield Public Schools will need to continue on our trajectory to excellence. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, I believe that it's truly a fiscally responsible budget ask. So last week, or last meeting, I walked through these next couple of slides where, at the beginning of the budget process, school and district leaders provided me and my team with the emerging priorities in each of the 3 objective areas. And then following that, I held a State of Schools address and budget forums where I could really get input from all of our stakeholders, from both educators and members of the parents and community. So I went through those and then began talking last meeting about really the key budget drivers that came from that conversation. And I think there are really 2 really key budget drivers in this FY17 budget. The first is the support of this 3-tier model. And this is about, again, all students having success in the general education classroom with a combination of Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 supports in academic, social, and emotional learning. And then a second key budget driver is instructional technology as we continue to work on becoming really independent in our operational budget. We're in really phase 2 of a 3-year plan to achieve that independence and making sure that within our operational budget we can replace student and teacher devices on a regular cycle. I mean, our devices are now the paper and pencil of today's learning. And it's important that we're able to do that and not reliant, on annual capital requests. And then 2 other budget drivers I think that are important to mention, that we have to continue thinking about hiring, developing, and retaining quality teachers and maintaining optimum class size. Another important piece, and this is really a resource that, time is a resource within a budget that has to be considered. And we have to continue to think about the time and the opportunity that we give teachers to collaborate and plan. So we really started with the cuts and reallocations, and I think you'll see, thank you, in the cuts and I have my phone on because I'm hearing this weather. And I'm watching for weather alerts, and Maria Sorio is keeping me posted. But thank you, Mike. On the cuts and reallocations, we're entering into phase 2 of the district technology plan, as I mentioned. So we need to infuse $80,000 into the FY17 budget in order to support the technology lease for teacher and student devices in that replacement cycle. Next year, we'll need to do the same. In order to do that, we really thought about that it's time to start going green in the Wakefield Public Schools. I'm really asking principals and district leaders to cut 5% of instructional and other supplies. So that would be things like paper and pencils, staples and staplers and things that really our technology should be replacing. And that really helped us create a financial wash. And the other mission-specific piece of thinking about where we can cut and reallocate money is I think you've heard me say many times that we really need to invest in highly qualified, certified teachers to work with our students with the highest needs, the people that are working with our struggling students. It's important to make sure we're hiring moderate special needs teachers, reading teachers, or intervention teachers that are highly qualified to do that work. So as evaluating IEP required services across the district, it looks like we can anticipate about a 2.0 FTE reduction in non-certified staff in order to find those dollars to add in that area. In terms of new revenue and offsets, we also began to really look at what new revenues are coming into the district and where we can target those funds. So our partnership with Lesley University has been an important one. We really are expecting about $24,600 is what we were able to estimate of new revenue coming into the district, and that can offset some of the new ads in social, emotional, behavioral health support services and interventions, which fit squarely on those two triangles you saw depicted in that graph earlier. We're also anticipating a circuit breaker increase, and we're hoping that will help us offset special education increases, particularly in tuitions. And then, as you know, we recently increased the Doyle tuition for next year, and the goal there is to offset the costs of our early childhood center, increasing our sustainability through the operational budget for that school. Next are the budget additions. These are the new ads. Again, kind of going back to that mission specific. When you look at those 2-3 tiers of academic, social, and emotional intervention and support, I can think of no greater or more important ad than adding a counselor at the Galvin Middle School. That cost will be about $58,000, and I think that, again, that sits squarely on that on the two triangle and the overlap of those two triangles of the 3 tiers of support for students. And also we looked at the Doyle School and adding a 0.2 music teacher, so that's 0.2 FTE. So for short dollars, we're adding really rich inclusion experiences for all children at our Doyle Early Childhood Center. And then, as I talked about, that kind of time as a resource while the children are getting a great opportunity to enjoy and participate in music education, it also allows for the teachers to have time to collaborate and plan in a professional learning community setting. And then another piece I just wanted to mention on a budget ad is a district-wide furniture replacement plan. That is a line that has not been in the school department budget for as long as I can recall. And it's something that's needed in capital planning. The town is not accepting furniture requests, which they really shouldn't. So we really need to think about making that space in our operational budget. So our director of facilities will oversee a plan with an allocation of $15,000 to create a 5-year plan of renewal of district furniture, particularly, of course, in our older schools. So then other budget increases that I just want to point out that are in your budget book. Transportation continues to be an increase in cost. We are expecting an increase in homeless transportation, so we've allotted for an additional $13,000 in that area. We've been talking about every month the increases in the utility costs. Mike will tell you that it's been a tough year for utilities, so we need to plan carefully and accordingly for next year. So we've allocated more money in that area for next year. And then I just want to point to some unknown variables. It still is only February of 2016. Still many things that we have to monitor and along the way. We're monitoring closely our enrollment, especially kindergarten registration, really watching those numbers in the upcoming months. We certainly have to look at legislative additions or deletions, increases or decreases in federal and state grants, and then special education. As I said at the last meeting, in this budget, we're budgeting for what I know and can anticipate, and we really have to look at the stabilization fund for unexpected costs. And then finally on this slide, I just mentioned that it's just important to note that salaries in the Wakefield Public Schools really absorb 80% of the operational budget. So as you look at the budget, that's really a huge chunk of what we are working with, and we need to think about and I'm prepared for contractual obligations and our collective bargaining agreements. The next slide is really just a review of federal grants, state grants, and revolving accounts, and what that income and revenue looks like. And then I thought it was worth noting, I think I've already mentioned this to the school committee, that we're really expecting a solid bump in Chapter 70 increase in terms of funding that's coming to the town of Wakefield. The governor's preliminary budget is showing a significant increase for the Wakefield Public Schools, which is shown here. And that's due to really two factors. One is an enrollment increase of 103 students in our reporting. And then the per pupil expenditures has been increased to $38 per pupil. And so the combination of those two factors are really allowing for a pretty solid increase. So I thought that was really worth noting. The next slide is not in your packet, but this was a request from Mr. Liakos earlier this week, just to give us a brief history or a snapshot of what that Chapter 70 increase has looked like in the last few years. So this is just a look at the 5-year history, and you can see really it's really quite a jump. Even the last year, the numbers were down a little bit. Even from 2015, it's pretty considerable. And then this is just a look at our enrollment. I mean, when you look at it in graph form, you can really see that jump. Now, Mike Piffling and I did some research to see if we could get you some real specifics about where those increases are. It's a little bit hard to see in the data. We could talk about this a little bit more later if you're interested. I think at best I can say that I feel confident that our investment in early childhood education in Wakefield, the Doyle in kindergarten, tuition-free kindergarten is partly responsible. Certainly, the new Galvin Middle School facility, I think, plays a big role. And I think overall, the reputation of the Wakefield Public Schools as an educational community is a factor. But it wasn't easy to get the specific numbers. And Mike and I can talk about that later if you'd like to hear a little bit more about that. So in the end, when all the dollars of the budget book are put together, this slide shows the final recommended budget and the overall increase from FY16 is at 3.99%. The next slide shows the budget increases in descending order, just to get a sense of where that 3.99% falls. As I said earlier, salaries is always the biggest piece. But I think the next few lines kind of really show you where much of that is targeted. Special education, as you know from recent meetings, that number could have been higher. But I think we just really looked at the most reasonable place to kind of say, okay, this is the place to which we'll estimate the increase for special education and tuition, transportation, and legal fees. And the 0.67% was kind of our stopping point. And we said at that point, it's really guesswork. So that's where we left our increase in special education in terms of our projections. Utilities is the next big jump. As you know, that's been a problem throughout the year. So we really want to account for that and make sure that we are budgeted well for next school year. Instructional technology, next, that's really that infusion of new monies to continue on our instructional strategy in that area. Then the requested positions that I brought forward to you this evening. Of course, contracted services throughout the budget district-wide plays a role, followed by transportation. After that, it drops off considerably, and I think it's worth noting that you don't see a big increase in professional development or curriculum or some of those areas, but that's really due to the excellent budget that was presented last year, and that 11.4% increase last year really attended to those key instructional needs. So we're in a good place. I did not add additional money to those areas this year. The next slide just shows the budget distribution by school. I always like to look at a graphic. I think a pie chart shows this well because we just want to make sure that the budget distribution really matches the per pupil in each school. And I think if you look at this graphic representation, I think we've got it just about right. And then I just thought it was interesting to look back at the budget increase history in the last 5 years. because I think it really tells the story of where we've been in the Wakefield Public Schools in the last 5 years. And as you know, in 2015 and in 2016, we really were able to recommend budgets. The school committee recommended budgets, and the community really supported budgets that increases that was significant and really put us in a great place with which to move forward. So 2017 comes back a little bit to that 4% mark, but I think that really shows you in that recent history that the school department's in a really good place. But yet, in the next steps in the trajectory to excellence, as I always like to say, we have to think about what we still need and will continue to still need in the Wakefield Public Schools to get there. And in my professional opinion, on this slide represents what I believe are imperatives to add within the next 2 years, the next 2 school years, or the next 2 fiscal years. And you see them listed here. I would recommend that within the next 2 years, we add one more district-wide math coach, so that we have a total of 2 district-wide K-4 math coaches for our teachers and our students. I would recommend that we add 2 more specialists, one in technology and one in art, at the K-4 level. You get a lot of bang for your buck by doing that, particularly, again, around the time resource, because what that would do is it would enable the absolute optimum scheduling for specialist classes and literacy instructions at all schools. I can talk more about that at some point if you'd like to hear more about understanding how that works. I'd like to add 1 more teacher at the Galvin Middle School in grade 5. We are 1 teacher away from completing the entire team model in all 4 grades at the Galvin. In terms of student-teacher ratio, we're certainly in a good place for next year. We're not compromising class size or anything like that. But the team model at a middle school is really important, and that one final piece of the puzzle will put the Galvin Middle School in a great place for years to come. And then we have 2 more curriculum coordinator positions that I think are essential. The 2 final pieces of that puzzle are the 5 through 12 social studies and world language curriculum coordinators. As you know, those positions are adding instructional coaching, professional learning community support, vertical and horizontal curriculum alignment. They're really, really important, and I want to make sure that within the next 2 years, those final 2 pieces lock into place. And like I said, I really think that's would be an excellent step for the Wakefield Public Schools. I would like to add within the next year or 2 a 1.0 ELL teacher. That would allow us to really get the support we need for a growing population of ELL students and be able to keep students in their neighborhood schools. And I think that would just create the best learning opportunities for all children and situations for our instructional staff. And then finally, Steve Mayo and I have talked a little bit about district data analysis, both on the town side and the school side, and kind of our vision moving forward, how we might even consider sharing a district analyst, because as you look forward to the needs, you want to make sure that as we're planning for the future and projecting, that you have someone that can really articulate in terms of looking at, analyzing, synthesizing data, so that we're making really strong decisions moving forward in the town of Wakefield. So like I say, I would consider these the next steps over the next couple of years to make sure we get where we're really trying to get in the Wakefield Public Schools. And then my last slide is a picture of some beautiful smiling Wakefield High School students. And I just thought it was a beautiful sunshiny day when we had the big Black Hawk helicopter coming in, and it was just a fabulous day, and I just saw that road to excellence. And our core values as we shape them this year, as you know, I'm on that journey right now. It's about our clarity of purpose, and I'm really proud of this FY17 recommended budget. I think it really meets what we set out to meet. I'm deeply, deeply appreciative of the community for the support that the community has given to the Wakefield Public Schools in the last few years, and I want to continue that journey together on our trajectory to excellence. So that's it. I will take any questions, and my microphone expert is here to help answer, along with me. What can I help?
We have two more opportunities to discuss this
Absolutely.
before the vote, so if you guys want to take the time to get your budget books tonight and review and
Absolutely.
ask more detailed questions on the 8th, that's fine. If you have questions tonight, feel free.
Just one comment.
Yeah.
I just have one comment. Is in terms of the budget increase history, I think that's really interesting, showing starting at 2013. But you know what?
Thank you.
If we went back before 2013, we would see the struggles that we were dealing with prior, and we're really kind of digging out and trying to play catch up. And especially, I mean, you could just look at where we were with technology and the investment that we had to make. So,
You know, that's such a great point. And in the budget book,
page 20. Yes.
page
Oh,
20,
aren't you good, Mike? Look at that. Yeah,
that takes us way, like, back to 2000. It's a 15-year history, and I think that's such a salient point, because really right before that 5-year history were the years where we ranged from the -%,
Yeah.
the decreases, and some very, very modest increases of 0.5% or 0.2%, or even in 2012, the -0.25%. So I think that's a really salient point.
Yes.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think, you know, and that's why last year, as we said repeatedly, it was a right sizing. Last year was a right sizing budget, right?
Absolutely.
And for a lot of the key spending areas, and as a result, you were able to, you know, propose a budget tonight that, you know, is more modest, but still, you know, is still, you know, moving the ball forward on a lot of core areas. So I just really commend you and the budget subcommittee, the team that's, you know, helped you develop, and Mike, of course, and your staff. I think it really is. You said it's a fiscally responsible budget. It really is. But at the same time, it does some important things. And the other thing that I think the public needs to know about this process is, you know, as we're entering into a series of negotiations, collective bargaining agreements, you know, it really does. There really isn't a lot of room to maneuver for the rest of the budget. I mean, essentially, you're talking about salaries, 80% of the budget. You're talking about your core, you know, your human resources, the core of the work, the core of the investment. You have special education costs, which are largely fixed, or, you know, fixed in terms of legal requirements, and then you have your regular fixed costs. And so your room to maneuver isn't a whole lot, but you've really done a creative and thoughtful job of within that small sort of room to maneuver of keeping us and moving in the right direction. So it's great.
Thanks. That's it for tonight.
Okay. So I thought I would be remiss if I didn't just take 2 minutes to tell you that I am back from Cuba, which maybe I caught something on the plane, but I had an absolutely amazing time, and I just have a couple of quick slides to show you the students, because that's really what was most important in my journey to Cuba. So we saw kids of every age, and I don't know if you had a chance to read my communication that I sent out yesterday, but probably the most profound learning is just that kids are kids everywhere. So these early childhood kids were just like our kids at the Doyle School. They sang to us, and we sang some childhood songs from the United States, and they sang some songs from their heritage. We saw some kindergarten children. They were absolutely lovely and wonderful, and their teachers were amazing. We got to see some kind of middle school age kids. Here depicted here are some young ladies who told us all about their school and what they wanted to be when they would grow up. We had a great Spanish translator with us the whole time. They asked us questions about the United States, and we asked them questions about their country. Here are some adorable little middle school boys. I mentioned in my little note the little mischievous guy right next to me. He was like every mischievous fifth grade boy I've ever met. And they were just absolutely adorable. We had a lot of fun together. I also met some great high school students. We had some really nice conversations with them, and gosh, they were so much like the kids at Wakefield Memorial High School that I've just known for so many years. We also visited a vocational technical school where they really focused on the restoration projects in Cuba. Kids were amazing. And then we went to the University of Havana and talked to students and a professor there. So it looks like these photos might be a little bit dark. I hope they're showing up on TV. But in the end, this is one of my favorite photos that I took because it really gives you a nice glimpse. But people of Cuba are truly a magnificent people. They're proud and resilient and beautiful. And I hugged a lot of Cuban people in the last few days. It was just amazing to have people from United States citizens and Cuban citizens coming together for the first time in over 50 years. It really, truly would take your breath away. So I just wanted to report back and say it was an educationally incredible experience. So,
That's awesome.
and
Thank
that's
you.
it for my notes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just have a question. What questions did they ask you?
Well, you know what was really interesting? The fifth grade students they wanted to know a little bit about Disney World, of course, which is very important. But they asked us why we have to pay for education in the United States. And I just thought that was so interesting. And of course, we told them about public education, but there are parts that are private at the university level. But it's very different for children who are growing up in a society that has a socialist government. It's just a very different landscape. So we just thought that was really, really, really interesting. But they wanted to know what was important to us. And to be really honest, they asked the same questions, really, that probably our own students would ask. Yeah.
Did you experience any profound differences in the approach to curriculum?
So the curriculum in Cuba, it's the government, of course, plays a very, very strong role. It's a communist country.
Yeah.
So the government plays a very, very strong role in articulating the curriculum. There's not a lot of, where I think in our curriculum, a lot of the development comes from within, teacher participation, administrative participation. It really is a much more top-down approach. So I think in that way, it's very, very different. They're very, very proud in Cuba of their literacy rate. Is very, very high. So that's a very high source of pride. We went to their National Literacy Museum, and that was very, very important to them.
A literacy museum.
A literacy
Interesting,
museum. As part of, the revolutionary years in the early 1960s, they really went on an initiative to become an illiteracy-free country. And they're very, very proud of that history and shared that with us.
Interesting. Thanks.
Anyone else? Great. Thanks.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Payroll warrants.
Move that the school committee approve payroll warrants numbers 28, 30, 32, and 34.
Second, anyone? Any?
Second.
Second, sorry.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Voted unanimously. Second one.
Yes.
All right, gifts.
Move that the school committee accepts with gratitude the donation of $1,500 from the Wakefield Track Boosters Club. The funds are for Anthony LaFrada for helping coach the WHS indoor track team during the 2015-2016 season.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Voted unanimously. Great. Subcommittee reports. Would you like to give a budget subcommittee update?
Well, I think the superintendent presented tonight's the results of our last couple of meetings. So
Great.
I don't think there's anything else we need to add.
Thanks. Communications?
We have a meeting scheduled. Is it for tomorrow?
Yes.
I think it is. I do think it is.
Okay. I'm gonna make sure it's posted. Because if it's not, we'll have to reschedule. But
Yes, you will.
there you go. Here's my update.
Thank you. Does anyone from labor have an update?
We have a lot of meetings.
Yeah, so we've opened with Unit A, which is our teachers, Unit C, which is our instructional support personnel, our clerical staff, our custodial staff, and our cafeteria staff. We've met with all of them at least once or twice now, so things are moving along. It's been a very pleasant experience. So.
I do want to express my appreciation to Assistant Superintendent Doug Lyons, who's helping me manage all of that.
Great, thank you. Policy, I know they're trying to get a meeting scheduled, so they're working through that with all the other subcommittee meetings. Future dates and agenda items, next meeting is March 8th, and again, that will be the public hearing at 7 p.m. So, be here for 7.
All right.
School committee comments, Mr. Kenny,
I'm all set, thank you.
Mrs. Danahy,
I'm all set.
Mr. Liakos.
Same.
I would just like to thank Chris Robertson from the Observer. Tonight's the last meeting that he will be covering for us. He's moving on to another opportunity, so I just wanted to thank him for his time with us and the excellent coverage he's provided. And that's it.
Okay.
Yes, Mrs.
Sorry.
Danahy.
I did want to congratulate the new inductees into the Alumni Hall of Fame, Susan Majeski, who, congratulations to Susan, who we all know very well, and Therese Jarmusic, and Steve Mayo, and those are the ones that I know, so.
And David Butler, custodian
Oh.
at Wakefield Memorial High School.
Excellent. That's great.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Move that the school committee adjourns its meeting of February 23rd, 2016.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Voted unanimously. Thanks.